Have you gotten to the point yet where, like I have, where you're starting to feel just a little bit uncomfortable about some of the extenuating circumstances around this horror that's occurring in Ukraine, caused by the murderous pig, Vladimir Putin? I'm not talking about the actual combat, and I'm damn sure not talking about the resistance being put up by the Ukrainian forces, or our attempts to assist, our meaning NATO nations in the United States. It's something else. Something else. And it started to leak into my conscious mind after watching videos and listening to the stories of horror that the people of Ukraine have had to endure over the past 5 weeks. Started to creep into my mind, and I tried to keep it out, like go away, no, tried to block it. But I can't do it anymore, so I'm just going to bring it up. And that is how these refugees from a war-torn country are being accepted, embraced by their neighbors in Europe, as compared to the way refugees from the Middle East and North Africa have been totally rejected by the countries in Europe. Now, where I'm having the problem is I keep trying to tell myself, okay, well, this is an entirely different situation. You know, for the countries surrounding Ukraine and the countries of the European Union, these are like your next door neighbors, my next door neighbors. And the people from the Middle East, or the people from North Africa, or the people from Afghanistan, or the people from Iraq. Well, that would be the Middle East, right? Those people would be like someone coming to knock on your door, ask for assistance from, well, I don't know where you live, but for me, living in Georgia, I guess it would be like somebody coming to knock on my door and ask for assistance who lives in Texas. And I get lost when I start thinking about this because I don't know the proper analogies to draw here. But one thing stands out for me clearly and plainly and obviously and starkly, and perhaps for you too, is the different way the refugees from Ukraine are being accepted, embraced, taken care of, to the extent that these countries can. I mean, the sheer number of refugees now, what is it, close to 5 million external Ukrainian refugees, with another 10 million lost inside their own country as it's being destroyed by this filthy goddamn rat, Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump's good buddy. And I also have heard reports or read reports or seen video of dark-skinned people who are living in Ukraine. Obviously, I say obviously because that's how it was explained by the voiceover in these reports. Obviously, refugees themselves, these dark-skinned people from other parts of the globe who settled in Ukraine and now being forced to leave Ukraine, and how they are not accepted as readily with as much of a welcome as the white-skinned people from Ukraine into the countries surrounding Ukraine. You understand what I'm saying? It poses a real moral question for me and a dilemma for myself, you know. Because I understand, like I said a moment ago, the analogy being a next door neighbor coming over and telling me that he or she is in dire straits and needs some help. Oh, okay. And somebody from Texas showing up on my doorstep, and I'm saying, well, I'm thinking anyway, well, wait a minute. What about the people in Oklahoma? What about the people in Louisiana? What about the people in Arizona? I mean, why don't you go to them? Why are you coming all the way over here to Georgia to talk to me? So that may be, apparently it has become my out, little crack in the door of bigotry that I slipped through. so that I can say, well, I understand why the Ukrainians are being given such a different sort of welcome by their neighbors, different from the welcome that was not given to people who would try to get to European countries from Libya or from Morocco or from whatever country was the departure point, and then attempting to cross the Mediterranean, or at least parts of it. Have you been thinking about this? Have you been aware of it? Is this just bullshit that ricochets around inside of my head? And I look at the refugee situation that's occurring in Europe as a result of what this filthy pig Putin has done. And in being honest with myself, which I have spent the better part of a lifetime trying to do, be honest with myself, and sometimes it's extremely difficult, separating one's bigotries and prejudices and attitudes from reality is sometimes goddamn near impossible. At least it has been for me. But when I look at these white Europeans who are fleeing, and I see the little kids, and I see the babushkas, and I see the men who stayed behind to fight, and I see the wives and mothers with their backpacks and their prams and carrying their babies, and the sense I get of remorse and rage at whoever did this to make these women and children flee. A sense of sorrow, the sense of desperately wanting to help. And when I feel that, I check it out with how I felt when I saw refugees who were not white fleeing from equal genocide, repression, murder, mayhem, bombing, war, death, destruction, hunger, fear. And what was my attitude about them? And in this sometimes ridiculous attempt to remain honest with myself anyway, I have to admit that the feelings are different. They were different when I saw refugees of darker skin color, people from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever, who were doing the same thing that the people from Ukraine are doing. Now, the quick response, and I've had this discussion with myself over and over now, the quick response is that the Ukrainians are part of the European family. The Syrians are part of the Middle Eastern family. The Afghans are part of the, not Middle Eastern, but a little bit to the Eastern family. In other words, I separate people by, in these instances, by their color, their race, their nationality. And that gives me that little crack in the door where I can slip through, like I mentioned a second ago, so I don't have to look in the mirror and say, you racist son of a bitch, you're still doing it, aren't you? And, I have to admit, this is difficult. It is very difficult. Especially when I've done some checking and some reading, and I find out that part of the Ukraine resistance to this son of a bitch Putin is a group called the Azov. I think it's the Azov Battalion or the Azov Group, who are neo-Nazis. No, neo-Nazis, not fascists. Trump is a fascist. Putin is a fascist. But the Azov Battalion, I think it's called, I'll get into that. I won't have time to get into it in today's podcast, but maybe over the weekend. So knowing that some of the people struggling to maintain the integrity of their country are people who are openly neo-Nazi, It just makes it even more fucked up for me, more confused. And again, it's not about me. I understand that. But as an observer, as somebody who is contributing something, I've contributed some money. I've contributed at the local Publix. They have a deal now where you can add money to your grocery bill to help feed the people. I remember this stuff from when I was a kid at the end of World War II. Helping my mother pack care packages. Do you remember care packages? So this is not new to me, helping out war-torn people. We used to do it in elementary school. We would fill the little boxes that had the Red Cross on or whatever, care package, with toothpaste and toothbrushes and hand soap and packaged peanuts or whatever. So it's not new. Supporting people who have to deal with this. But the questions that have popped into my head are new. They're new for me. And I don't feel any kind of remorse about the fact that these are white people helping white people. And they're the same white people who weren't so welcoming to people of color. I guess, like I say, I've rationalized it by saying, well, it's the neighbor syndrome. Are you going to help your neighbor? Well, sure. You going to help somebody that lives 5 states away? Not so much, if they show up on your doorstep. Now, you may volunteer to go from Georgia to Oklahoma to help people who've been devastated by a tornado. I'm not discounting that, but you know what I mean. I hope you know what I mean, because I'm certainly not stating it as clearly as I'd like to, but it's very confusing for me. But once again, it makes me confront some of the most ridiculous questions about the human family. Why do we treat this group differently from that group? Why do we accept these people in a manner that is totally 180 degrees different from the way we accept that group? And on and on. And on. And for me, it's like, okay, just when you think you found some solid ground to stand on, where it concerns your attitude toward other races, other people, other nationalities, just when that occurs, all of a sudden these questions start to pop up. And the ground on which I thought I was standing, that I thought was very firm, all of a sudden it starts to get shaky again. Son of a bitch. It's just, thought I'd bring it up so you can deal with it. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.